need to be so surprised. Well, my father was the one who asked for it to be built like this. Perhaps our taste in exterior a gigantic and glamorous ship embodies discovery, opportunity, ambition, and conquest. It symbolizes Spina di Rosula's bright and limitless...
And Paimon thought you were bluffing when you said Spina di Rosula. Paimon was confused why a group with such a history would live in the... But now that Paimon has seen this ship for her...
Well, Poisson is where Spina di Rosula began, after all. It's our main base, our home. Melus, we're back!
Apologies for the wait, demoiselle, and our most important partners. You said before that you still had some business.
About that. It's because my partner here reminded me of something really You still remember, right, Melus? On that night...
Yes, the case was quite similar to that of Mr. Linney's.
Could you tell us a bit more about what happened before?
Yeah, of course. Many years ago, something, at a glance, it was a kind of drink that could
Wait! Didn't that guard guy who turned into water also
Yes, he did. Considering what we know now, if you drink synth for an extended amount of time, you'll suffer many side effects, such as losing the ability. And if you were to stop drinking it completely, you'll experience flashes of paranoia and anxiety, while lacking. As he oversaw Poisson, my father was compelled to put a stop to synth abuse.
Boss's uncompromising attitude incurred the synth vendor's wrath. But not only that, Boss became determined to find the mastermind behind...
Yes, but the enemy was very cunning. So he could never get anything out of the dealers. Recognizing that, my father decided to contact the dealers in secret and cultivate personal relationships with them. The man's name was Jacques. He felt greatly ashamed about his work after seeing many families destroyed. That night, my father hosted a banquet at his countryside estate. He planned to meet up and exchange But then, we heard 2 gunshots from the courtyard. We raced to the scene and found my...
Huh? How did that happen?
Sounds just like Lenny's case, doesn't it? In both cases, looking back on it though, I now believe the most important clue was something we all overlooked at the time. Precisely. It's all thanks to you that I made the connection now. But, considering it now, it's almost certain that they belong to a third person at the scene. With one extra person, we'll also need to reconsider why the 2 shots were... You're right. We still don't know what happened. But my intuition...
Jacques was an empathetic man who was infinitely remorseful for his past actions. I think this third person is probably the key to the full truth. On that note, however, even though this will not please you, demoiselle, as you're and your father's butler, I must still offer a word of warning. Our opponent is insidious and cruel. Even though Spina di Rosula has lost most of its former glory, Poisson has welcomed a new time of peace. There is no need to follow your father's path. It would be both wise and in line with Boss's wishes.
If that's indeed what he wished for, then he should have told me that himself. Was I not the closest person to him? And yet, what was the point of him dying without sharing any of the secrets he knew? Synth is still here. Callus the Unfaithful is still his epithet. And did he think I'd just accept his meaningless death and live out my life just as meaninglessly? I've never accepted that. Ever. Not since I want to find out the real answer for everyone's sake.
Davia,
This is indeed the best moment to act. Your partner appears to be quite reliable, and more importantly, Demoiselle.
So you do know something else, Malus.
Yes, I do. In fact, even before that banquet, Boss already knew of the connection between Synth and the serial disappearances case. But what drove all the tensions to the boiling point was the revelation that you, Demoiselle, had been...
What?
Boss also didn't tell you that he had been diagnosed with a rare illness, and the serial disappearances case caused him great anxiety. 5 years was nowhere near enough time to resolve this long-standing conflict, but once he passed away, all the danger would pass on to you. Knowing all of this, he decided to use one final intimidation tactic before his death. He claimed to have already gotten his hands on some key incriminating evidence for the other side, but as long as you remained safe, he would not share the evidence with the public. If something were to happen to you, then he and all those he told would immediately expose all they knew about Synth and the disappeared victims.
Right. So nobody would be able to get off scot-free.
As we've seen, Boss's tactic has worked. Even though Boss has been gone for a long time, the other side...
No, I don't believe it. He never appeared to look sick to me.
No father wants their daughter to see them weak and haggard, especially someone as proud as Boss. To him, dying in a duel and suffering lasting dishonor as the...
So he chose to die in silence. So that...
I'm afraid you're not understanding this correctly. If Boss's spirit could hear you telling me that you want to find the answer, I'm sure he'd be...
That fool. No. He might have set up everything precisely because he never... Is that the amount of confidence he had in me? And what if I was never able to make it to where I am now? Yeah. I suppose that's true. With the way he'd set things up, if I had wanted, I could have just lived out my life without a care in the world. But thankfully, he rarely talked to me about complex matters, and thus understood little of me as a person. Malus, what was the key evidence that he shared with you?
It's the location where Synth is produced. When he was threatening the enemy, Boss didn't share the specifics of the incriminating evidence. But if you want to use it against the enemy, you'll still have to take several things and...
Why? If we know where the place is, can't we just go storming in?
You mustn't forget that we're fighting against a mysterious and dangerous organization there's no telling what might be lying in wait at their headquarters. But a single visit to their headquarters would be... The worst case would be that we leave empty-handed. But...
Then, in that case, why not work with the Fontaine authorities?
Well, you saw one of them dissolve during Mr. Linney's case.
Huh. That's true. But things are different now. It should be a lot easier to prove the other side's guilt, now that...
You sound like you've put a lot of thought into this.
I am the butler, after all. I've always been willing to take on any kind of risk for your sake. But considering my relative lack of ability, I've spent my time keeping secrets, performing...
Thank you for all of that, Malus. Have you discovered anything new in the past?
Let me think. One conclusion I came to was that the enemy must be quite familiar with... When I announced orders to the organization's members on Demoiselle's behalf, I used to deliberately keep a few... If the vendors didn't change their plans, then the individuals informed of our orders must be innocent. After several rounds of testing and investigative tracing, The first is Florent. Spina...
Huh? Florent?
Yes, surprising, isn't it? He was one of the people Boss... Thanks to his position within Boss... There's someone else like him, too. Marcel.
Uncle Marcel.
It's a guild in Poisson. The Boss helped it to grow to its current size and prominence. In the beginning, they were only reselling some daily goods, but now they're...
So, they're like a sister organization?
Yes, you can say. It's a bit difficult to imagine someone using their own money to hunt down themselves.
The final suspect is Thierry, the man responsible for coordinating information. Although the guards mostly leave us to our own devices, since Thierry is always in the know about our current...
I see. To think that the enemy we've been fighting against has been right next to me all along.
If you want to investigate them, please take every precaution to not alert the quarry.
Of course. And thank you, Malus.
You're too kind, my lady. I'm just... and before I forget, proving Boss's innocence would also mean clear... After that incident, Jacques' wife and daughter were taken into the Spina's care. If it might help, you could also pay them a visit.
Oh, thank you so much, Malus.
A new case awaits, my dear partner. I hope we can work together to uncover the truth.
It is settled, then. If we...
Thank you for arranging everything for us, Malus.
Excuse me, miss.
Oh,
Hey, Navia's all quiet. This isn't like her at all.
I'm sorry that I only came to visit after all this time.
Ah, if it's about that, there's no need to apologize. After my...
But aren't all of those things nothing compared to the loss of Jacques? I can understand.
You don't understand it.
I didn't know how to face you, because I didn't know what I could possibly bring as a consolation gift. I know only the full truth could bring closure to you.
I'm sorry. I appreciate the sentiment, but you... On the matter regarding my husband,
Would you mind sharing it with me?
I always knew that my husband's money was earned through others' suffering. He told me countless times that if he could turn back the clock, he would never go into the synth business again. He had many regrets, and felt that he took the idea of providing for his family too literally. So when Mr. Callis came to him with a proposal, he accepted it almost immediately. He tried to be as careful as he could.
They found out about his betrayal?
Papa didn't say that exactly, but Papa did tell me that I should never be ungrateful.
Before he left that day, he told me that he had no choice. It was only later that I realized it was his final farewell to the two of us. I don't know that for sure, but you could say that's the conclusion I eventually came to. Which is why I'm the one who should feel guilty. Callis had always taken great care of us, both when he was still alive and after he passed away. Even if he fired the shot that killed my husband, it was likely in self-defense.
But Mama, why is Papa still the bad guy if he did the right thing? Papa always wanted to be a good man, so...
Well, things aren't always as they seem.
Yeah, Papa was a really good man.
Then you should hold on to that. If a good man had to do a bad thing, then he must have had his reasons, regardless of whether he left you a parasol or a sword.
Oh.
Thank you for everything you've told me. I will definitely find the truth.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to hear this from you. Even though your personality is quite different from your father's, your determination when you speak is really similar.
You really think so? That's the first time anyone said that to me.
Are you okay, Navia?
I'm fine. Don't worry. Let's investigate the 3 suspects next. We should be able to find Thierry and Uncle Marcel in the city. I'll get myself together on the way, so please don't worry.
Greetings, boss. How may I be of assistance today?
I'm sure you've heard about what happened at the Opera House?
Yeah, I've heard. With something that dramatic? I'm sure journalists will milk it for all it's worth.
It also reminded me, on the day that the incident happened with my father, after my partner here put the dots together for me, Can you do me a favor and try to recall what happened that night?
Let me think. Mr. Callus was feeling pretty upbeat that day. After that, he told us that he wanted to go get some fresh air. So my first reaction was that Mr. Callus's life was in danger. So I grabbed my holster and made a mad dash toward the scene. But when I got there, it was already too late. Mr. Callus was standing over a dead body with a gun in his hands.
So you also remember 2 gunshots then?
Indeed. The guard said that the first shot didn't hit anyone, while the second killed Jacques. Reason being, Mr. Callus had left his gun on the table. But according to the guards, that doesn't mean he couldn't have had other guns on his person. About the clothes left at the scene that you mentioned, do you think there was a third person there who was turned into water?
At least from our perspective, my father had no reason to kill. The gun he was holding probably belonged to Jacques.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you're saying Mr. Callus ended up with the gun because he... But hold on. If that's what he didn't even want to face the Oratrice machine. Did he lose all faith in the courts after seeing someone dissolve?
About that, Malus told me a thing or two. So I'll tell you everything once the whole truth has been revealed.
I understand. Then And if I may just say one more thing. Many people have laughed at me for still calling him, but it was Mr. Callus's trust that allowed me to rise through the ranks of Spina di Rosula. No matter what others might say, he'll always be the man I respect the most.
Don't worry. I will definitely find the truth. You and all our other comrades at the Spina deserved... Hey, Thierry! It's...
Oh, now, what brings you here, Miss Knott?
Oh, so you've got...
Oh, okay. Hey, I'm also...
Are you sure there isn't a little bit of truth in that? Under norm...
I mean, where I work, Callus did a fantastic job running the town. It would be next to impossible for me to find a similarly easy, but... Anyway, enough chit-chat. Are these 2 friends of yours?
Yes. These 2 are my partners. What happened at the Opera House made us realize that Linny's case and my father's may be related.
Ah, I get it. You think there might be more to the case now that we know people can be dissolved into water, right? If you want to go through the original files from your father's case...
That'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Actually,
Of course. Without them, I couldn't. Why do you ask? We definitely can't use them to forceful...
well, you see, just recently, we were So, if you, hypothetically...
Then you think too high. If I had to make an analogy, when you order a dish, the chef will make it for you. If you try to make unreasonable demands, the chef would just think you're out of your mind. Removing a serial number is also not as easy as you might think. So I can promise you, those mecha were definitely private units. They're certainly not cheap. So, whoever their owner is must be super rich, powerful, or...
Oh, then you're officially in the clear, Thierry.
Oh, well, thank you. Jokes aside, I'd like to wish you all the best with your invest. I'll be staying in the city for a little while, so...
Hello. How may I help you?
I'm here to see Marcel. Could you please let him know?
Sure. I will let him know right away.
Navia, hello. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm not as young as I used to be.
Oh, it's all right, Uncle Marcel. I just wanted to talk to you briefly about what happened in the Opera House.
Yes, I've never seen anything so strange.
Oh, you were at the Opera House too?
That's right. I went there with Navia to see the magic show. Who knew it would? I also witnessed your marvelous sleuthing. To beat the Hydro Archon at her own game on her own turf. I can already imagine everyone in Fontaine discussing your exploits over a
Oh, Paimon doesn't want to become the top.
Apologies. It's just how Fontaine is.
Uncle Marcel, you've also noticed that...
Yes, I was reminded of your father's case right away.
Exactly. I still don't have much solid proof, but I can...
Oh, and what makes...
We were attacked on Araneus by some unnumbered Gardamex. And there was also an... If not for the vigilance of my partner, I probably wouldn't even be here.
Oh, you're giving us too much credit.
Alas, it seems things are heating up again. The peace that Callus sought so... But rest assured, Navia, Poisson will always remain a safe haven for you. If anyone dares to lay their hands on you there, the Confrérie of Cabri...
Thank you, Uncle Marcel. But I don't... And do you have any new thoughts on my father's case?
About that. The Confrérie was responsible for that banquet, so I was out and about the whole time making Then I heard the sound of a gunshot, and...
Oh, it's okay. No need to push yourself.
Sounds good. Just let me know if you... All my wealth comes from Callus's patronage and support.